Hello, pop-up people. I am here to show you today. Hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. And we are also going to talk about the artist Jean-Michel Basquiat. And if you live near Boston like I do, the Boston MFA has a show coming up with his work. And he became famous in the 1980s. And can't really show his work here, pictures of it, because that might be copyright infringement. But we have a monthly art club coming up that's going to have 3 pre-recorded lessons and a live lesson. In those, we've had 4 artists. We've gotten permission to use their name and their images in conjunction with the lessons. So we'll be able to handpick images that we can show people along with the lesson. So we're really excited about that. The cart is going to open for that, I think, on April 21st, and then it goes live on April 26th. And so we're really excited about that. Janelle and I were putting together lessons in all different kinds of materials: clay, drawing, painting, 3D paper construction. I'm going to do a very loose and expressive picture of a face because Jean-Michel Basquiat, his work is almost kind of messy and very loose and expressive. So I think this is a good technique. It's really fun to learn, and it kind of mimics the way that he worked to a certain extent. So if you want to know more about Jean-Michel Basquiat, like I said, there's a show coming up at the Boston MFA, and there's a Caldecott winner book called Radiant Child, which is about his childhood, and that's by Javika Steptoe. So when he was a kid, he always wanted to be an artist. So I'm going to turn my phone around just so you can see my hand. Materials that you're going to need for this are pretty simple. You need a piece of paper. A heavier piece of paper is better because we're going to be using a lot of water, and that just works better than, let's say, maybe printer paper. That wouldn't be a good choice. I have a bunch of salt. This is kosher salt, but you can use table salt. I also have clear glue, but you can use white glue. And I have some watercolor paint right here, a paintbrush, some water, and I have a towel just for wiping off my brush. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw lines with the glue bottle. Then we're going to sprinkle salt on them. So we're going to have salt lines in the pattern that we make. Then we're going to take the wet watercolors and touch them onto the lines of salt. And it's like a capillary action where the paint color is going to spread through the salt. So it's really cool. It's fun to do. So I'm just going to raise up my camera a bit so you can see this a little bit better. So you're not going to be able to control this image too much because you're using a glue bottle to do your picture, but that's okay. All right, so, and like I said, Basquiat's work, it was very loose, and he sort of referenced his background. He is of Haitian and Puerto Rican descent, so some of this stuff kind of looks like African masks, excuse me, that's a hard word to say. And also sometimes you can kind of like see into the face, not in a very literal sense, but because his mom, he really wanted to be an artist and he was interested in a lot of different things. So his mom gave him a copy of Gray's Anatomy when he was a kid, and you can kind of see that in his art. It's interesting. All right, so I'm going to make some eyes. That was the hair and the face. Some eyes right there. And a nose. Oops, a little bit bigger nose than I wanted. And then we'll do a mouth right there and a neck like that. And you can make anything you want here. Again, you're not going to have a whole lot of control. But sometimes it's fun to not have a whole lot of control over what you're doing and explore what happens. So let's make a little ear there. I'm using clear glue. Not everybody has clear glue. I just happen to have a lot of this, but you can use white glue, which most people have in their homes. So my glue is still wet. So now I want to sprinkle the salt on, and I'm using kosher salt, but you can use table salt if you want to. And feel free, if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. All right, so if you're doing this at home, you might want to do it inside of a box or on top of a piece of newspaper so that you can put the salt, um, you can easily dispose of it. So I'm just making sure this is very well covered. Kind of sticks to the top of the glue line and then doesn't always stick to the side. So the more salt, the better. And we're going to shake off most of this. I don't want to see any glossy bits of the glue. Okay, so that's really well covered. So what I'm going to do is kind of like putting glitter on glue. Put this here. Only salt doesn't get everywhere like glitter, so this is easier to use. And I'm just going to shake off the extra like that. Not too hard because I don't want to dislodge the glue. I've got some on there. Okay. All right, so put this down. So I have already, as art teachers like to say, I've woken up my paint. I put some water in the different wells of paint to get it nice and wet. So I'm just going to go around and add color to the salt. So you just kind of touch it right to the edge and then see how that moves through the salt. Green, and I'm going to do some red ears. And the watercolor is pretty wet, so I'm just touching the tip of my brush to it, and it spreads right through the salt like that. So last week I did a Facebook Live about watercolors and salt, and I showed you this container of salt that I had. It's still on our Facebook page, so you can search for it there. It was last week's Facebook Live. So anyway, so I have this container of salt that I call rainbow salt, and it's the salt that kind of knocks off of this type of picture or when I add salt to watercolors. So it's all different colors. So if you watch that video, you'll see what you can do with it. You should save whatever excess salt you have, the one that has soaked up the watercolor, because most of it will stick to this, but some of it will kind of flake off. All right, so let's do some hair. I think I'm going to give this person rainbow hair. Get purple. And we'll do some blue. Down a little bit. So as I said before, we are starting a virtual monthly art subscription, which is going to open in April. And the great thing about it for busy families is that there's no schedule. So let's say you have a few days where it's beautiful outside, and of course, everyone's been stuck inside. You don't want to have to go do after school activities or things like that. So you can really just do it on your own schedule when you're ready, and you can do it at home too. So you don't have to drive anyone anywhere. It's one less after school enrichment, errand that you have to do basically to drive someone somewhere. And we're going to be focusing on a contemporary artist every month and sort of doing the projects with that as an inspiration or jumping off point. And we love showing kids contemporary art because it's about what's going on right now. I see a lot of lessons for Van Gogh, Monet, which is great. I love both of them, but I've seen a lot of lessons, and a lot of times those are done in school. So we're trying to do something a little bit different and show kids a diverse range of artists. It really kind of opens up your mind and your world to the way other people live. You can get different stories from different parts of the world. I'm going to do, I think, black on the eyes. And when we open up the membership, we're doing a founding members price, which means that The first people that join the first month are only going to pay $15 a month for the art club. And we're only going to allow 25 families in because it's the first time we've ever done this, and we want to make sure that we give everyone a really good experience, that it's high quality. So we're going to be keeping it small. All right, so I got a little bit more to go here. So this is very relaxing. I love watercolor paint, like adding it to like wet paper and just watching it move. I just find this so soothing. So I encourage you to try this. It's not really not that messy, especially if you put the paper on top of the newspaper and just dump the salt out on there, and then you can throw it out. Now, like I said, you're going to end up having some salt that gets dislodged. Save it because you can use it in a craft project, but do not eat it under any circumstances because it has soaked up the paint. I mean, even though this is non-toxic paint, you never know. So I don't want to take any chances with that. You could also play around with mixing colors here. I haven't really done that, but you could put two colors next to each other and see what happens. So like right down here, I have some green. So what happens if I put some purple next to it? I want to see if the colors, yeah, they kind of mix a little bit right there. All right, so that is my portrait. And so I also wanted to show you this Friday at 7 p.m. in the lead up to the art club, we're going to be doing a free lesson every Friday at 7 p.m. and it's a full length lesson. So this Friday is right before, oh, I see a question. Ginger said, nice lesson. Have you played around with bleeding tissue paper? Yes, I have. Only some kinds of tissue paper bleed, so you have to make sure you have the right one. But yeah, that is really awesome stuff to play around with. If you don't know, you can kind of rip it up into pieces and put it on paper, and you can wet it, and it will leave the color behind, and it looks really, really cool. So this is what we're going to be doing on Friday. Let me just move this so I don't get it wet. And this is a three-dimensional card. It's got a little basket there. You see that comes off the front, opens up. And this is something that you can make. I use cardstock paper. You could use printer paper. The heavier the paper, the better. And then we're just going to be going through and doing different patterns on the basket and the eggs. And you can add whatever you want. You can add bunny rabbits. If you don't celebrate Easter, you could put flowers in your basket. Or this can also be, if you make it thinner, like a mug that you put like a hot drink in. So, so fun stuff to play around with. So that's going to be on Friday at 7 p.m. You don't need to register. I'm just going to be here doing the lesson. And you can join us at any point. And then the recording will be on the our Facebook page afterwards, just like the recording for this. So anyway, so I encourage you to go check out the art club. If you go to popupartschool.com, there's a thing at the top, and you can get on the wait list. And we have 5 free PDFs that you can download, and that will get you on the wait list, and you'll get notifications when we launch everything and put it together. So I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you on Friday at 7. Bye.